Hi, this is Courtney Butler, certified yoga therapist and solution focused coach. This is a video on holistic health with yoga therapy. It is also what I like to call cognitive and somatic therapy, meaning we use the power of the mind, the brain, and the power of movement to help balance you on a holistic level. So one way we do that in yoga therapy is we look at the body from a whole person perspective. And this is a simplified way of talking about it, the 5 points of yoga. This was codified by a modern guru. I want to say it was Sivananda, but I would need to fact check that. And it's just kind of a simple way of explaining a holistic lifestyle to especially Westerners. And what that means is yoga is a mind-body practice. It does not just mean asana or breathing practices or only meditation. It's a complete lifestyle that includes diet, breathing, exercise, meditation, and relaxation and sleep. If you look this up, you're going to find some different charts on it with a few variations of the wording, but it basically is the same. So from an ancient yoga perspective, we call this the koshas. And the koshas are like nesting dolls. If you've ever seen those little Russian nesting dolls, or you'll see them sometimes at Christmas, they'll have Santa Clauses and there'll be like 5 little dolls. They get smaller and smaller. You open them up, there's a smaller one. That's kind of a good way to think about the koshas. But it's basically talking about the levels of our being and understanding that we're not just a physical being, that there are other elements to us, and that if one area suffers, the whole suffers. And that when we are healthy in one area, it affects all the other areas. And so here are the 5 koshas. There's Annamaya kosha. That is your physical body, this vehicle, okay? And that is nourished through food and sunshine. So we think sunshine, that's kind of weird. No. If you think about what we eat, fruits and vegetables, and that we mostly need a plant-based diet because we need to eat the micronutrients and nutrients that are in plants, and by plants I mean fruits, vegetables, nuts, seeds, legumes, grains, then we can get sunshine through eating those things, as well as sitting in the sunshine for vitamin D, and through nourishing our bodies, taking good care of our bodies. Then we go to, asana would also be part of that for the Annamaya kosha, physical exercise. Then we go to Pranamaya kosha. When you are born, you take this big breath in, right? And so then that is the prana, or the energy, life force that comes into our body. Life force sounds very Star Wars and like, what? That's a little on the woo-woo side, Courtney. It simply means that energy that comes into this physical being when we're born and leaves this body when we die. You can very, very clearly see it when someone dies. So you come into the world on an in-breath, you leave the world on an exhale. So exhaling, letting everything out. But when we're alive, it's a constant process of inhale and exhale. And it is said, I read a study the other day, that humans only use about 1/8 of the capacity of our lungs unconsciously. In yoga, we're trying to consciously do pranayama using our lungs to take in more breath, more oxygen, to expel more carbon dioxide, therefore feeding the energy in our body, therefore feeding our body with good, healthy oxygen and ridding our body of waste product, CO2, or carbon dioxide. And then we go on to Manamaya kosha. Manamaya kosha is the emotional body. It is checking in with yourself and saying, how am I feeling today? I've been really sick for 3 days, and I don't get sick very often, so I'm sometimes hard on myself because I eat right, I work out, I try to manage my stress, but sometimes you get sick. And I've recognized today that my energy is low, and so I normally would go to yoga on the weekends, try to get things done, clean house, catch up on like household stuff. But I've recognized that I don't really need to do that. I was going to work on my taxes this weekend, and I was just thought, I just need to rest today and try to get well. And I've got to work all week and teach, and I need to practice what I preach. So, in recognizing where my mental state was, where my emotional state was, knowing that my physical body is sick, it's affecting my energy, it's affecting my mind, it's affecting my emotions. I'm a little crankier, a little bit more short, which just ask my fiance. And so, therefore, I'm checking in with myself. Vijnamaya Koshna is the wisdom body. Through checking in with myself and saying, physically not feeling so great, eating lots of fruits and vegetables to try to get better. Energetically, not so much. Mentally, tired, kind of cranky. My wisdom body says, Courtney, you need to rest. You need to get on the couch and rest. So this is kind of fun outlet for me. It's not hard. So as soon as this is done, I'm going to go make a bowl of vegetable soup. I'm going to sit on the couch with a cup of hot tea and probably veg out to some kind of happy movie for the rest of the day. Then, let me add another practical way we connect with our wisdom body. So through meditation and asana and pranayama, we are connecting with our wisdom body. Meditation especially connects with our wisdom body, and I'm not going to go into some of the deeper levels of thinking on this, but as we meditate and practice mindfulness, we start to connect with that which is inside of us, that source of wisdom that says, I think maybe today you should rest. I think maybe you should go left. Call your mother. Things like that. Like, you feel that you need to check on somebody. Your wisdom body says something's not right, or you need to do something different. And we know when we don't listen to it. The other day, I on autopilot took a left turn to go to Little Rock, forgetting, not being, thinking. I was with my son. I didn't feel good that there was construction. And so if you saw my earlier video, I talked about how we almost got into a car accident. A huge rock hit my windshield and busted it terribly. And I wasn't listening, and I kind of connected with the fact that I wasn't listening to myself. I knew I shouldn't go that way. I didn't turn around. I went that way anyway. And, it didn't pay off. Some bad things happened. And so that's what happens when we meditate. We recognize when we're not listening, and we recognize when we are listening. And then we get into Anandamaya Kosha. Anandamaya Kosha is the connection to source, to God, the God of your understanding, your higher power, nature, recognizing that we are connected to things beyond ourselves and our own control. Whatever you call it, that it is knowing that there is something beyond us that we do not control, whether you call that energy, whether you call that God, but that is Anandamaya Kosha. It's the self-realization of connection to a higher power. All right, and then it says on here, the self, and to me, the self is our true nature. It's our essential nature of who we are, recognizing who we are, and our connection to all things beyond ourselves. That is also through meditation and following the steps that I laid out in another video of pratyahara, sense withdrawal, concentration and focus, meditation, and going into a state of surrender and bliss. Alrighty. So now I'm going to break down the 5 points of yoga, and the based on the koshas and the more Western model of the 5 points. And so it comes down to these things: diet, how we eat. So we want to eat more fruits and vegetables, more whole grains, legumes, nuts, and seeds. Those things help to bring micronutrients into our body and help promote healing. We want to avoid the things that cause inflammation in the body. We have a test at work at the heart clinic where we test people for inflammation in their body, and that's one of the biggest predictors of a heart attack. So things that cause inflammation are white sugar, white flour, and white rice. And so you want to avoid those things at all costs. They're highly processed, and why not just eat them in their whole form? eat the whole wheat, and make sure it says whole wheat. And if you can, I encourage you to eat non-GMO and organic. And I know some people roll their eyes at that, but the truth is, if you can afford it, you don't need to put the pesticides in your body. If you can't afford it, the benefits of fruits, vegetables, and grains are still so much better than the drawbacks of the little bit of pesticides that you're going to consume. And so, even I live in Hot Springs, Arkansas. It's hard to find organics sometimes that aren't in, bruised or old. So sometimes I will choose the non-organic and just wash it really well. But reduce your consumption of meat as much as possible. I'm not telling you to go vegetarian. I'm just saying reduce your red meat, because there are products in fatty meats that cause inflammation in the body and also contribute to cancers and heart disease and diabetes. So we want to avoid that as much as possible and eat it only in moderation. We know that third world countries have less disease and diabetes, heart disease, cancer until they adopt an American diet. And they may eat meat, but it's in very small amounts, and it's oftentimes meat that they've caught themselves or hunted. So be mindful of that. On the exercise promotes circulation, lymphatic drainage, regulation of your heart rate, cholesterol, your nervous system. It is, honestly, if you had to choose and you could go exercise or take an ibuprofen, if you take an ibuprofen, which I'm not saying I don't, I have the past couple of days because I've been so sick, but recognizing that taking something just masks the problem. The problem is still there. You can get a stent, you can have a bypass, but you still have heart disease. You haven't reversed it. You still might have high cholesterol. You can either exercise and eat right and live a holistic diet, or you are probably going to be sick. And if you are already sick, you're not going to get better simply by taking pills. Pills are not a cure. They are a band-aid to the problem. And though we oftentimes need them, especially like I have a situation, I don't know if you can see my scar, but I've had my thyroid partially removed. I have to take some kind of thyroid support the rest of my life. I've tried to get off of it, and handfuls of hair fall out, and I can't think straight. So yes, we sometimes need medicine, but that is not an excuse to not take care of our bodies. We have this vehicle, and if we put garbage in it, we're going to get garbage out. If you're hurting, there's probably, and you're just taking medicine and you wonder why you're not getting better, if you don't address what you're eating and your movement, then you're probably not going to get better. And so even if you feel like crap, you've got to do some movement, even if it's gentle exercise. You have lymph glands all in your neck, in your armpits. You have a huge lymph gland that runs right down the center of your being, down in your pelvis, and then down to your legs and in your ankles. And yoga practice asana, we do movements that you don't do in daily life, like laterally side leaning, forward bends, really deep forward bends, back bends. That stimulates the lymphatic system. Moving, doing thoracic twist, that's stretching all this lymph. This is stretching and draining the lymph here. Those things help to get that congestion out of your body, get it moving, helps produce our lymph system produces T cells. It presses our thymus, which produce T cells. So that helps us to heal. And it's also important for blood volume. You can't reverse blood flow. I used to say that, and I wasn't thinking about what I was saying. You're increasing the volume. So if I do this, where does the volume of blood in my arm go? Towards my heart. If I raise my legs, the blood volume goes towards my heart. Coincidentally, when we're in a sympathetic state, flight or fight, okay, so let's say the rock hits my windshield the other day. I'm in a state of flight or fight. We're there for a moment, like, oh my gosh, attack. Then all the blood goes to our extremities. It goes from our heart out to our extremities, away from our vital organs. When we're in a parasympathetic state, the blood flow is going to our heart, to our vital organs. So when we do these yoga moves, we're bringing blood volume to the areas that we need it. And so that's why it's so important to do some kind of asana practice or some kind of movement practice that moves your body in a variety of ways moving your spine. And I like to use the spine in all 6 directions. There are some issues if you have spinal stenosis or facet syndrome that you have to be careful. There's all kinds of conditions that I would tell you to get with someone who knows what they're talking about if you're sick, before you do movement, because some movements are contraindicated. But you can do yoga, you can do some asana, you can do some stretching, you can walk, you can swim, all kinds of things that you can do to get movement of blood flow, lymphatic fluid. It regulates all the systems of your body, and it's so important. Then we have breathing here. When we come into this world, it's on an in-breath. When we leave this world, it's on an exhalation. Our breath, we use about when we're babies, we use all of our lungs. Our lungs expand up and down, side to side, front to back. As we age, we use about 1/8 to 1/4 of our lung space in a capacity. You can build that. I'm an asthmatic from growing up in a home with smokers, and I have lung damage from that. I have reduced my dependence on albuterol by doing breathing practices. And so it would look something like this. I'll do Durga breath, or 3-part breath. Inhale, hold, exhale. Normally I would do it through my nose, but many people can't. After the exhale, hold, squeezing the lungs. Then inhale again, fully focusing on full capacity of the lungs, all the way to the base. Hold, holding the lungs open. Exhale, till the lungs are squeezed closed, or not closed, but tighter. That forces oxygen into the bloodstream, by the way, and it removes carbon dioxide. It expels carbon dioxide. So that process helps to bring more oxygen into our body. It starts to regulate your blood pressure. It starts to regulate your nervous system. It starts to put your body in a parasympathetic state. Everything chills out. It helps to increase dopamine in your brain. So when we do that, also we release tension. So when we go into that parasympathetic state, tension starts to release in our bodies. After doing asana, we've released tension. When we are tense, we hurt. So when a muscle is tense, it squeezes. When it's squeezing, it's tight. When we relax through asana and breathing, it relaxes. It allows then for more blood flow to go through, and you are then healthier. Alrighty, let's go to meditation. So meditation practices, I mean, this is not something I can go through simply, but it is learning to first focus on your senses and then let them go. Take time to notice things. Notice the birds, notice your animals, notice your kids. Be in the present moment. Notice and be with where you are. Notice the sights, the smells, the tastes, the hearing, and the sensations physically and internally that are going on. Focus on something like a candle flame or a word or a place, and allow your mind to center on that thing. So breathing in, fill your body with your breath. Focus on the word peace. Close your eyes. Allow your mind to repeat the word peace, peace, peace over and over again as you breathe in and out completely. And then open your eyes. There are many meditation practices you can do from 1 minute to hours. I like to go to UCLA meditations when people first start. That's a really good free online meditation. There are books that you can read that open your mind for contemplation. And so I like anything by Melody Beatty, Journey to the Heart, Rolf Gates for yogis, Meditations from the Mat. There are so many on your phone. Insight Timer is great, but meditate every single day. After you learn to formally meditate in some way, whether it's silent, guided, and by the way, try them all. It's like eating your plant-based diet. You know, it's not just the fruits and vegetables. It's not just the guided meditation and the centering. It's also the visualization, the silent meditation. everything can be beneficial to you. So try them all because they all have different benefits. They strengthen the gray matter in your brain. They strengthen your amygdala. It helps to support the hypothalamus, the frontal cortex, which is like the yak 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 part of your brain that worries. It helps to shut it down, not completely, but just so that it gets quiet because it's always worrying. And that helps so much. And once you start doing this as a formal practice, you start to bring it into your daily life in everything that you do. And everything in your life becomes like a meditation. Does it mean you'll still have stress? Yep, you're still going to have stress. Does it mean that you'll still have problems? Yep, you'll still have problems. What it means is the way you react to stress and problems will change. All right, then we're going to go down to relaxation and sleep. And relaxation and sleep, body scanning is a type of relaxation and can be part of meditation as well. But trying to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. When you do these other practices, you start to notice what interrupts your sleep. And I'll be honest, since I've gotten older, I'm 46 now. My fiance just moved in. We're about to get married, and he doesn't sleep well at night, and it wakes me up. I have a hip injury that keeps me up, but I still try to get 7 to 8 hours of sleep every night. And learning what's affecting your sleep. For instance, I was drinking some tea at night called Bengal Spice, and it's caffeine free. I drink it after dinner because it's naturally sweet. I don't have to put any sweetener in it. So that means, it's not adding sugar calories to my diet. But one thing about it is it's very spicy. And I was noticing that I wasn't sleeping good at night, and I was having like what felt like heartburn, which is not normal for me. And I realized that I was drinking that tea, which is very spicy, which if you go into yoga further into what we call the gunas, that would be very rajasic, which means energizing and spicy and getting you going. And I started to recognize that because I'm aware through meditation, breathing practice, exercise, and diet, I'm more aware of how things affect me. And so I've decided if I'm going to drink that, I drink it earlier in the day or earlier in the evening. I don't drink it a couple hours close to bedtime. And it's definitely helped me. So trying to sleep, trying to do a meditation practice before you sleep, practicing and learning how to do withdrawal of the senses. The difference in meditation and sleep or pratyahara, withdrawal of the senses, is when we close our eyes, we naturally start to go in. Our brain is affected by all the stimuli out here, what we see, smell, taste, hear, and touch. So when we close our eyes, we automatically start to go in, and that's what we do when we want to go to sleep. You can kind of find and get a sense of sleep. Your body can go into a parasympathetic state of rest and digest by meditating. So if you're not getting enough sleep, I would encourage you to do more meditation to help your body have what it needs when it sleeps. So that's basically the gist of it. If you're having a lot of problems, that I encourage you to start thinking and exploring these things. There's so much information online. If you're having a lot of pain, look into what foods cause inflammation. I trained a doctor at a local hospital in yoga recently because they were preparing a yoga program for their vets. It's a VA hospital. And one thing he said, he's a doctor of integrative medicine, is that inflammation is pretty much the cause of so many illnesses, if not all illnesses. And what we don't realize is inflammation is caused by our diet, lack of exercise, and stress. And so you can control that. It doesn't mean people aren't going to get sick, but it means that the quality of our life can be better. It means we can lengthen our life, and while we're here, we can have a better quality of life. So lastly, it just takes personal responsibility. It's as a yoga therapist, and one reason I became a solution-focused coach was I was taking on so much of my clients' stress. They would tell me things, and I would feel like I needed to fix it, classic codependent that I am. And what I figured out through going through a coaching program was I found a way to enable people to take personal responsibility through asking the right questions, not judging them, not telling them what I thought they should do, but leading them to find the answers within themselves. So let me give you a little bit of an example of what that looks like. So I would say to you, what hurts? Okay, what makes it worse? What makes it feel better? Okay, immediately you go, wow, when I sit in that chair, my hip hurts really bad. Or when I sit in lotus pose, my hip really gets aggravated. There's a clue. See, I didn't tell them. It came out of here. But when I go walking or I do that exercise class, it really seems like my hip's better than the next day. Light bulb. Okay, maybe I need to be doing that exercise class more often. I might ask, who are your supporters? What are your biggest challenges? How are you going to handle your challenges? I don't tell them how to handle their challenges. I'm not in their life. They're not stupid. They know how to handle their challenges. If I say to you, you have pain, what's your diet look like? And you say to me, well, I eat a lot of pasta and bread. And I say, what kind? Oh, just white bread. Then we might have a conversation if you didn't clue in and say to me, oh, I know. If I say, are you eating fruits and vegetables and plants? And you say no, most people know they need to eat fruits and vegetables. You need to eat more fruits and vegetables and plants in order to heal. And so many times I don't have to do a lot of explaining. I might guide people to resources that are helpful, or say, you might watch this, or you might try this. This worked for me, or this worked for another client I had, and it will clue them in. So if you're watching the PowerPoint with me on this video, you're going to see that it says the job of you incorporated. This is what I tell my clients when they come into the door. Before I worked for a formal program at Ornish, and now, before, when I was a yoga therapist, had my own practice, it's you. Only you can change this. Only you can heal yourself. You're going to probably need some Western medicine, and I'm not against Western medicine. I'm a believer, but you can learn to use both in conjunction to heal yourself, and you can learn to know when you need Western medicine and when the problems are caused by things you're doing yourself. We have to take responsibility for ourselves. We have to recognize that a lot of our problems are caused by the way we're living our life. And if you look at a chair, I use this example all the time. I know some of my students probably get sick of it, but if you look at a chair and you break one of the legs, the whole chair is broken. If you are struggling in one area of your life, then fix it. Figure out how to fix it. Self-care means if you need therapy, if you need to go see a therapist, then you spend the money to go see a therapist. You find a way, you barter, you do something. But if you just ignore it, don't expect your life to go away. You're going to store those issues in your tissues. You're going to store your dis-ease as disease, and it's not going to get better until you fix the problems for in your whole body, holistic, whole person. Physical, energetic, your breathing, the way you hold yourself, your mental and emotional energy, or your mental and emotional state, your connection to listening to your inner source, and your connection to something higher than yourself, your spiritual life. You don't have to be necessarily religious, but if you believe that the world is just you and you alone, and there's no connection to nature, to other people, animals, then or God, that's the one I have, is I say, my connection to God, my connection to listening to the fact that there is something bigger than me. I just can't live without the thought that there's something bigger than me out there, that I can't look around at all the flowers and trees and plants and sky and animals and our biosystem and ecosystem and not think that there's something divine. So it's not a judgment on you, whatever your belief system is, but we need to be connected in some way, even if that's getting out in nature and going fishing, whatever it speaks to for you. So I wish you the best, and this is You Incorporated. You're you are in charge of this body, this vehicle, and please take care of yourself better than you take care of your car. Because if you're not taking care of everything else in your life, it's probably a reflection of how you're taking care of yourself. And it doesn't mean things don't get out of order, and get out of, sometimes life gets out of order, but we have to regroup and come back and be willing to look at ourselves and be willing to find balance again. So this is Courtney Butler. Blessings to you, and thank you for watching.